It's the Kyle Hyman Show on Redeemer Radio.
This is Kyle Hyman, and here to talk about some different women saints, and specifically ones who won the battle for souls, the holy handmaids of the Lord, is Julie Onderko. Thanks for being here, Julie.
Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you. Who would be a non-canonized woman that you either look up to or have learned a lot from?
Well, Margaret Bosco was one of my favorites, and she is included in this book. She's the mother of Don Bosco, or St. John Bosco.
Okay.
She's called Don Bosco. Yes, and her story it's an amazing story of faith and formation. She was formed to be a warrior, and wow, you would never believe how it all turned out from the way she started.
I don't feel like I've ever heard her story. Where did you first find out about her?
Well, I don't remember when I first found out about her. Maybe when I was just learning about Don Bosco, because his story is so fascinating during the Industrial Revolution and how he helped so many. The family was under attack. The Industrial Revolution just almost decimated the family. And so he then was called to help so many of the homeless boys. In the end, he needed his mother to join him to help. I mean, he got going on it, but then he needed a spiritual warrior, someone who had really been forged, been through it in life, and she had. And he needed her. As she was getting older, she was finally retired. She'd had a really, really challenging and hard life. And she was finally, with her grandkids on the family farm and, having just a nice life. And then he calls her to join him, which means poverty and endless working and et cetera like that. And she stayed with him till she died. And when he asked her, she didn't hesitate. I mean, she was very quiet because she knew it was a big deal. Like, this was one of those watershed moments, And even though it was really hard, and there was a time when she almost broke and she begged to be let go because it was so hard. I'm an old woman, let me go back to the farm, And, well, anyway, she said yes immediately, even though she knew. And then at that one point when she was close to breaking, she begged to go back. And the boys had just, they were trying to grow a garden and money was so tight, et cetera. And they had played some more games and got carried away and just trampled everything. And that was it. It was like the straw, that broke the camel's back. And she asked to go, but it was late at night. They were both darning socks, because you couldn't go buy new ones. And she pitched it to him. He just kept sewing away there with his needle and the candlelight. And then he just looked up at the crucifix on the wall. He didn't say anything. And then she did too, and she realized, no, this is my cross. I need to do it. And she just stayed with him until her dying day, and made a big difference in the lives of those boys. They would come searching. They would be homeless and all kinds of, beaten and everything. And they would come to her first, and she would receive them. But she had this experience of knowing what it's like to let her own son go out. She had a situation. We all do in families, people have stuff. And she had to let John, when he was 11, go search for and live at another family farm because she couldn't keep him. That was for a time, even though she was always very much involved in his life. And that wasn't just because of poverty. There was an older brother from a previous marriage. He was a widow. And this older brother, by several years, was running the farm and couldn't be run without him. And he was abusive. And so she had to have John go, because to have him stay, everything would have disintegrated. There's no way they could manage. So for a time, he had to leave. And you think, wow, so she had stuff that people have in their families today. You hear about, there's this abuse, there's that, there's this, which, it's part of the human condition. It's been around. This gal has been through everything. She was widowed with 3 little kids and the farm and John and she was very instrumental in his formation to the person he became. And he credited his teaching and his ability to reach the hearts of so many boys. He didn't just take care of them. They loved him. And he accredited it to her. She's quite a woman.
Yeah, I've never heard that before. That's fascinating. And just one of the stories that you will get in the book. The book is called Holy Handmaids of the Lord, Women Saints Who Won the Battle for Souls. And the dedication in the book is to your daughters-in-law, your granddaughters, goddaughters, and all future Onderko women. You say, and I quote, "Always remember who you are, royalty, warrior princesses, and daughters of the Most High God, with all the privileges and responsibilities of such a noble identity." End quote. So are you a descendant of some historic emperors, or is that how all Christian women should see themselves?
It's how all Christian women should view themselves. Interesting thing in the book, it does lend itself to thinking it's only about saints, but it's about the overarching history, salvation history, beginning with Eve all the way to us and Mary as the focal point. And when we know our place, everyone has an irreplaceable position in this drama of human salvation. When it comes down to it, we all have our part to play. And we carry with us, the priestly identity that comes from Jesus, our brother and our king, and Mary, our queen. And we work with this authority. We are. And so women, they kind of losing their identity, losing their way, not embracing who they were created to be. And so we go through, like the Old Testament too, all the way through and show Mary as the ultimate warrior woman who saves souls and how she does this, but all these other women, Old Testament and then in the age of the church. And we need to know that we have a place, we have a position to take up and an identity that goes with it. And that's the call of this book. This is what I believe. I really believe that Mother Mary wants her daughters to know who they are and why they're here and what they're all about. It's an amazing thing to learn.
Well, how do you think looking at these different stories can help Christian women fulfill their particular call?
Part of it is because we are in the communion of saints. So these are our elder sisters in the Lord. And there's men in the book too, because many of these women worked with men.
Right.
So it's not exclusively for women. I know that men are reading the book too and enjoying it, just like a woman would pick up a book about saints that has men saints in
sure.
it. And it crosses over. But yeah, no, these women, their stories, we can not only identify with them, but because we're in the communion of saints, they can be a part of our lives, journeying with us, accompanying us. They're in heaven wanting to help us fight the good fight, like St. Paul said, run the race, finish. So that's that relationship in the communion of saints. So it's not just learning about historical women who might be inspiring, but it's befriending them and realizing them that they're our elders. We can go to them for help. They're accompanying us. We are not separated. We are in the body of Christ together.
You said that you weren't even sure that you wanted to write this book. So why did you end up writing it?
Well, I had been through kind of a challenging 3 years of life, really challenging. And then I had this break where I could go for a day retreat. So it was one of those times in my life. And I went to Mount Angel in Oregon. We have the monastery there. And I was there. And I just saw in my mind's eye as I was praying the stations, and I just saw in my mind's eye this overarching view of women from Eve all the way to present and Mary and all the patriarchal women of the Old Testament, all the saints of the New Testament, and in our age of the church. And I saw this thread of a mission, of an identity. And then when I got to the top, I went to the grotto, and I just felt like Mother Mary was saying, my daughters don't know who they are. They can reclaim the culture. They're a powerhouse if they knew who they were. And, I just felt that. So I discerned it, though, for quite a long while, because I felt that it was beyond me to try to capture that and get it in a book that was readable. And I just couldn't deny that the Lord wanted me to do it, so I did it. And I did my best, actually. I did my best. So it's her work. She'll take it to whomever needs it.
Well, and how did you choose which saints to include? Because it's very thorough. There's a lot of women saints in here, but there's also a lot that you didn't put in.
Right. Part of what I did was I had written a previous book, Discover Your Next Mission from God. Mm-hmm. And so what I tried to do was not utilize the same saint stories that I had already used. Some of them are featured in the other book, but I tried not to make the same saint featured so that when someone's reading one of my books, they're not picking up and reading the same stories. But the other way was just whoever came to mind in prayer. I hike and listen while I'm hiking, or in adoration, I just go in there and sit. I wrote a lot of the book in the chapel. I just tried to get my inspiration and orders from heaven. I tried not to put myself in there. Really, I made that effort. And I know that if I'm in there, well, sorry, it was meant to be whatever he asked me to include.
Yeah. How about we have time maybe for one more quick story of somebody that's in the book and a lesson we can learn from her?
Well, I think St. Therese's mom, Zélie, we think, oh, it's a nice family. They're all very holy and all these saints are coming out of there. She is so relatable to mothers. I am telling you, and even women who aren't mothers, she's just so relatable. And she wrote a lot. So we get her inner thoughts, and it just is assuring to us when we hear somebody pour out their heart in writing and we say, oh, wow, I felt that way. Okay. And that's how she came. At one point she had lost half her children, and then one child in particular, the story is just gut-wrenching because she couldn't nurse her own children. And this was her big cross to bear, was that she couldn't nurse her own children, and she wanted to, and she wrote about it. And so one child is selecting who the wet nurse will be and all that kind of stuff. And you want them to live in your home, but often if they're good, they have their own family, so you have to let them live somewhere else for a time. This was really difficult. So they picked one wet nurse because the one they wanted wasn't available, and this wet nurse starved the child. And when she finally brought the child back, the child was on death's door when she finally brought her back. I think possibly because the woman didn't want the child to die in her own care. She didn't bring her back early enough, And so anyway, this baby ends up dying, and it's pretty dramatic. But what happens then is that Zélie is tormented by the what ifs. What if I'd picked someone else? What if I'd gone to see her sooner? What if? And then the anger towards the woman. So here we have a choice to be enveloped by anger or to allow the Lord to heal and love and turn you into a saint. And it's her struggle, and she makes the good choice. And people would say to her, maybe you shouldn't have so many children. I mean, you wouldn't have to go through all that pain. And she's like, no. I'll go through all this pain because they exist. I will be with them in heaven. And so rather than not have them so that she wouldn't have to go through the pain of loss, she was convinced, yes, I should have them because they're going to be in heaven. And then with all what it's gone through, and her neighbors watched, her family, blah, 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 all that, like you get people with good intentions telling you how to live and everything, then she's, over 40 and she gets pregnant with Therese. And there's talk again. Talk. Well, if she had decided not to have, to stop because of her health reasons or the difficulties of life, we would not have Therese of Lisieux.
Yep.
But I, honestly, if you read her story, I only scratched the surface. It's amazing. And she's like in our day, too. We have her words written, too. It's so nice. So she's another one I really got to know and just admire so much, and relatable, really relatable.
Sure. Well, there's so much more to dive into, but people will just have to get to the book. Where is the best place to send people?
Well, Sophia Institute Press is the publisher, so that's always a good place to go because we want to support our Catholic publishers. But also, and I think they're running sales now because it's around Christmas time, so I don't know what they are currently, but I know that they are running sales now. And then Amazon, any major bookseller, it's there. And I think it's electronic now. If it's not, it'll be soon. And then I want to ask your listeners that if they like what they read, it just came out. I mean, it's just hot off the press. I checked this morning, there's not yet a review from a reader, only editorial reviews. And so I would love for them to start putting reviews up there. That would be very helpful for Holy Handmaids. Yeah.
All right. Again, the book is called Holy Handmaids of the Lord, Women Saints Who Won the Battle for Souls. Thank you so much, Julie Onderko, for sharing this with us. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
Oh, you too. God bless. Bye-bye.